And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, Donald Trump receives a huge endorsement from former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. We'll have more on that coming up. But first, we're just 13 days away from the Iowa caucuses. According to the latest Real Clear Politics average out of the Hawkeye State, Donald Trump is coming in at 27.8% of the vote. Senator Ted Cruz at 26.7%. But Trump and Cruz are not just battling it out in the polls. The two GOP presidential candidates have continued their recent war of words. Watch this.
He's got bank loans from Goldman Sachs. He's got bank loans from Citibank folks. And then he acts like Robin Hood. You know, say whatever you want, but doesn't work that way.
You know, I think in terms of a commander-in-chief, we ought to have someone who isn't springing out of bed to tweet in a frantic response to the latest polls.
He's a nasty guy. Nobody likes him. Nobody in Congress likes him. Nobody likes him anywhere once they get to know him.
He explained that his views were that he was very pro-choice. He supported partial birth abortion. He was open to gay marriage. And his explanation for all of that, he said, I'm a New Yorker. I'm from Manhattan. Those are the views of New York. Those are what New York values are. They're not Iowa values, but that's New York values.
You know, everybody hates Ted. It's a very tough thing. They all hate him. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but they all hate him.
Donald, the last couple of days, has been a little rattled. His poll numbers went down, and he got a little upset.
And don't forget, Iowa hasn't picked that winner for 16 years. If they pick somebody other than me, they're going to pick another loser, okay? And Ted has got a rough temperament. I don't know. You can't start, you can't call people liars on the Senate floor.
I have no interest in engaging in an insult fight. I don't think the American people care about a bunch of politicians behaving like petulant children.
Joining us now with analysis, the author of the New York Times bestseller Duplicity, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. You know, I've known you all these years. I know that smile. We're 13 days out of Iowa. A lot of people are really ticked off on either side. This is fairly predictable, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's fairly stupid, I think.
I agree with you.
Here you've got the front runner nationally by a big margin, who yesterday got an amazing introduction from Jerry Falwell Jr. at Liberty University. I mean, that introduction is as glowing as anything I've ever seen, and should have an impact on a wide range of Christians across the country. Today he's getting Sarah Palin's endorsement, and today the very popular governor of Iowa, Terry Branstad, who is the longest-serving governor in the history of the United States, came out and said, you know, vote for anybody but Ted Cruz. Now, that's enough good stuff happening for Trump. He ought to just let go of this thing and get back up to being the guy who worries about making America great. Beating up Ted Cruz doesn't make America great, and I think it actually shrinks Donald Trump.
So you actually agree. That's the same analysis Rush had and Mark Levin had, and yeah. you think it actually hurts him.
I think it just makes him look smaller and pettier, and frankly, there are things he does that become a shtick. And I thought Sunday morning, when he had a very soft voice in a very rational way, and he talked about how Ted's just, you know, nasty, he said it almost sadly. Now he goes out in front of audiences, he ain't saying it the same way. People get tired of this stuff. You know, and the danger for both Cruz and Trump is, as happened many times in Iowa, a third candidate can come along and say, at least I'm not those two, and suddenly rise in the polls overnight. Look at Santorum in 2012. Go back and look at what happened with Edwards in 2004. I mean, you can have somebody in Iowa literally in 48 or 72 hours become the person I'm not turned off by. And that's, I think, it's a bigger danger for Trump than it is for Cruz.
All right. Who has to win Iowa? Is it more important for Cruz to win Iowa or more important for Trump to win Iowa? You see how close those polls are. Caucusing, a lot different than a primary. People have to be there for hours, listen to speeches. Very different dynamic than what's going to happen in New Hampshire. Do you think either of these candidates need that win?
I think that Cruz needs Iowa very badly because Cruz is probably not going to do very well in New Hampshire. You know, he's a brilliant debater and he's a brilliant guy, but he's now invested a lot in Iowa, and I think he needs Iowa more than Trump does. Trump has such an enormous lead nationally that as long as he's in the top two in Iowa, for all practical purposes, is winning. And if he goes to New Hampshire and gets anything like his current lead, he will be on a roll going into South Carolina and Nevada. So I think for the field, everybody but Trump had better hope that he stumbles somewhere, because if he is either first or second in Iowa and wins New Hampshire, he's a very formidable candidate.
You know, I tweeted out both last night and today that I am a proud supporter of the insurgency candidacies of both Trump and Cruz, because I think there's no more time for half measures. I think America's in big trouble on the world stage. I think the economy is really, really in a difficult position. I don't think it's time for, tinkering around the edges. And I think both of them are bold enough and tough enough that they could transform the country back into the greatness that it once had. Am I wrong on that?
Well, look, I think there are a number of great candidates who are running, and some of them are having a real effective run. Kasich, I think, is now probably second in New Hampshire, which is a big jump for him. I will tell you, in terms of the need for change, Callista and I went yesterday to see 13 Hours, and you can't see that movie and not walk out thinking, boy, we have really got to change Washington and change the attitudes in Washington, because it is so stunning to see Americans who are left out there by themselves, without support, without help, without what we would expect America to do for folks who are willing to risk their lives for us.
Let me ask you about electability in a general election, be it against Hillary or Bernie or maybe Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren. Who knows how this is going to end up? I suspect Hillary is in far more legal trouble than maybe she knows. Electability in a general election, Trump or Cruz, who's more electable?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, look, I don't want to get into that, because then you get into who am I endorsing. What I will say to you is, I think that
that's why I'm asking you, because I want to push you out of your comfort zone and get the analysis I really want.
Nice try, Sean. Look, I believe any of the plausible Republican nominees can win the general election. I believe that to have a socialist who basically advocates free college education while you're doing dope so you can spend 23 years finally getting a degree is not going to work in a general election. I believe having somebody who is devastatingly exposed by the email scandal, by secrets, by the entire corruption of the Clinton Foundation, I think she's going to have a hard time. And I think you made a good point, which is whether it's Biden or it's Elizabeth Warren or my favorite, Jerry Brown. I mean, somebody had better, or Michael Bloomberg. I mean, somebody had better start thinking seriously. They could end up in a situation where Bernie is the Democratic nominee, and I think he would be the George McGovern of our generation. He might carry 3 or 4 states, but it would be catastrophic.
Let me play 2 ads for you. Last question. It's a super PAC ad by Ted Cruz's, for supporting Ted Cruz, and a Donald Trump radio ad that is read by his daughter Ivanka. And tell me what you think of these 2 ads.
Now, one of the reasons that I like Ted Cruz so much is that he's not controversial. But the truth is, he shouldn't be controversial, because what he's doing is right. He took a stand recently, and it was a brave stand, and had he really had a little backing, it might not have ended Obamacare, but you would have really gotten a big chunk out of it. And I just watched him. I watched what he was saying, and I listened very carefully. And I don't understand the controversy. It's common sense. It's good government. It's so many good things.
Hello, I'm Ivanka Trump. When I was a young girl, my father, Donald Trump, always told me that I could do anything that I set my mind to if I coupled vision with determination and hard work. He meant it. I consider myself fortunate to have learned from the best, both as an entrepreneur and, most importantly, a parent. My father is a man who is deeply grounded in tradition. He raised my siblings and me to work hard and strive for excellence in all that we do. He taught us that to inspire and gain respect in life and in business, you have to earn it.
All right, I know you couldn't see the first one, but it was Donald Trump voicing over these comments with Ted Cruz and big crowds, etc., and that was Ivanka, obviously. Thoughts on those 2?
Well, look, you know me well, and you know I'm totally biased about daughters. My daughter Jackie did a great commercial for me. Both my daughters have campaigned with me. I think Ivanka's very effective in that ad. I also like the fact that it's not cluttered. I thought, just from what I could hear, that the Cruz Super PAC ad was way too cluttered. Whereas I think she's very clear. She talks in a way that everybody is going to understand. Again, obviously they discount a little bit because daughters love their fathers.
Yeah.
But I think it's a pretty effective ad, and I think it further puts Trump, along with Jerry Falwell's comments yesterday, puts him in a position where an awful lot of people who have doubts could say, you know, I'm going to take a gamble on this guy.
All right, Mr. Speaker, always a pleasure. Thank you for giving us your endorsement of a candidate, which is no candidate yet.
We'll keep trying.
That's my job. I try every night.